Hello everyone, this is lecture 2 on MERN technologies. In this lecture we will discuss HTML5. Previous lectures to watch, so please do watch lecture number 1. So in the lecture number 1 we discussed about what this course is about. So this course is about developing modern web applications, right, based on full stack. So what is full stack? Browser, web server and storage system. So communication between these three entities or developing a web application which would be communicating with browser, web server and storage system is known as full stack. And in our case, in this course, we will be studying MERN stack. So this is a full stack web application architecture that we discussed in the previous lecture. So technologies and concepts, browser environment, right? Browser software, backend communication, and backend implementation. So this lecture is about browser environment, in which we will be discussing HTML today. So what is a web page really? We have content, right? It could be images, it could be word, anything, right? Content. But this content is not useful. We need some structure, right? And if we want to make this structure look more good, then we need some style. After styling, obviously we do need some sort of response, some movement of it, right? So we need some behavior. So words and images are the content. HTML would provide this content as a structure. So in this lecture, we will discuss this HTML thing. And from cascading style sheets, we can give style to this structure. And by using JavaScript, we can add behavior, make more responsive websites. So HTML describes the content and structure of information on a web page. Not the same as the presentation, right? It surrounds text content with opening and closing tags. So basically HTML is a scripting language. It's not some sort of not a programming language, you can say that, like Java or Python, but it contains some script, right? Or scripts are based on some tags. And obviously we do need opening and closing of tags. And HTML is also case insensitive language, very easy language to use. Each tag name is called an element. This is very important because later on in every, like if we are using CSS or if we are using JavaScript, so we have to call this element. If we want to modify any tag, we have to call it through. Most white space is insignificant in HTML, so basically they ignored it. We will use a newer version of HTML known as HTML5. So syntax is similar, like we have one element, right, and opening of that element and then closing of that element, and in between we can add some content. So example is one tag, a P, which is for paragraph, right? So we have to provide opening and closing. So structure of an HTML page, you can see it's starting from doc type, right? So we will discuss this thing later on, but next tag is HTML. Then we have head and body. So head usually contains title of the page, right? Or we can include CSS or JavaScript files here, okay? So it's information about the page, whereas the body contains the main content of the page. So in body tag, you will add all the page contents. So an HTML page is saved into a file ending with extension .html. So we will store this or save this page as anything .html. Okay, and the head tag describes the page and the body tag contains the page content. Doc type tag tells the browser to interpret our page code as HTML5. So by using this line, right, we would be telling the browser that we would be writing our HTML in 5 version. HTML tag attributes. Some tags can contain additional information called attributes. Okay. So like for any element, we can add its attribute and its value. So for example, anchor attribute A, right? So here we are just giving one attribute and value. This is one attribute of anchor, right? And its value. Some tags do not contain content and can be opened and closed in one tag, right? So for example, BR, line break, horizontal, right, rule or line, or if we want to add some image, then simple one line, right? There is no as such content inside in these tags. Okay, only opening and closing. So these tags are opened and closed in one tag. Comments in HTML, you can start any comment with this thing, right? And anything between in these tags would be commented out. And then you can close your comment with this thing. So this is one example. Tips when drafting HTML web pages. Always start with a sketch wireframe before jumping into code. Okay. So you have to think what would be the overall outlook of your web page. Might be there is some image here, right? You need some text here. Here would be might be some links, right? Navigation bar. So always do some sort of sketching or wireframe. Obviously for that sketching you don't need to be an artist. So yeah, so you can simply sketch in a rough way, but you have to sketch. Okay, this is a pro tip that you must sketch before starting your HTML writing thing. So you must know that okay, here there would be some banner, right? Here I will put some image, right? So you have to plan it. Planning before starting coding is very important. So HTML5 has semantic tags to define structure. We have header tag, right? Main tag, footer tag, okay? Similarly, navigation tag, and we can use some other tags, section, okay? So here we in the body tag, remember we started with HTML, and in HTML we said we have header or head and body, right? So in body part we can again divide this body part into header, okay? So and then main content and then footer. So it could be changed, but for every web page, it is a good practice to must have header, main, and footer tags in body tag. Okay. So there is another example. We are starting with mentioning that we are using HTML5. We have HTML, then head, this title, right? And then we have body till here, right? In body we have one header, and in the header we are just using heading 1 with one collar tree web page, right? And then we have main. This is a main content, and I am adding one aside tag here, okay? And just commenting it's a left sidebar. So aside is for left. So aside is for sidebar, right? Then I have a one section and one article, okay? So we will discuss what is the difference between section and article later on. So then I'm just closing my section, right? and then it's main footer, and in the footer I can add some images, or here this is comment, but I can add something, right? Just like copyrights of something or anything. So this would be the output of this page if we add content and all the stuff, but this left aside thing is this thing, right? And then we were adding section, having each articles, and this was footer, right? And this was header. Okay? This is header. Here is footer. Okay? This is one section, right? And we are adding different articles in it. So HTML5 and semantic tags. Main, we have discussed this thing, but we can go through again. Main content of the document, unlike header and footer tags, there can only be one main element in the body, right? And the content inside should be unique and not contain content that is repeated across pages. Okay, so sidebars, navigation links, search bars, this should be unique. Then we have header. Header element contains header information for page body or section article, including logos, navigation bar. Footer element contains copyright information, right? Contacts, links, some other codes, right? To site sources. Footer. So what is the difference between article and section? Articles are complete standalone content. Okay. So this is one article. And sections are pieces of a greater whole. Okay. So section contains many articles. Okay. So one section may contain many articles. So obviously do remember that div has no semantic meaning and should only be added for selecting content in CSS, JSS, JavaScript, and should be your last resort to use. Okay. So because in HTML, in basic HTML, we do use this div tag a lot, but in HTML5, try to avoid as maximum as possible. We have links anchor, right? This tag. So we can link other pages. It could be absolute, it could be relative, right? So here we are putting one paragraph, and inside paragraph as a content we are adding one anchor tag, right? And this is the link that we want to go if someone click on this word Google. So output would be this, and if I click on this thing Google, I will go to this page, which is external. So links or anchors to other pages and uses href, hypertext reference attribute, right? And this can be absolute or relative. We will discuss few examples of absolute and relative. And anchors are inline elements and must be placed in a block element such as P or heading 1. Okay. So always in HTML5, if you want to use anchor element, you must use within P or H1. We can insert images by using image img tag, right? And we have to provide its source. This is source, right? And for accessibility, this alt is very important. So you can add some text like this image is about a koala with a leaf. Okay. So this is very important for accessibility. We will discuss accessibility in this lecture later on as well. You can see this alt text attribute increases or improves accessibility for users who cannot otherwise see it because of slow connection or because of some other reasons, right? So if that image is unable to load, then you can see this text would appear. So at least user can know that, okay, this image is about a koala with a leaf. Okay, so this is very important attribute that you must use here. So obviously you can put your images inside anchor tag. So this image would become a link. Okay. So if I click here, I will go to the website of BBC News. So relative paths are paths that are relative to your document. Okay. So if in a folder, let's suppose index.html is there and you are writing some code in HTML and there is one image directly you are placing here, right? Then relative path would be this, that you can simply mention that source is equals to image dot jpg, right? So you can add by this way. This is relative. But if you are using some source from let's suppose bbc.com, then you have to provide absolute path. Or if you are providing some link like we saw in the previous slide, it was absolute path. Okay, so yeah, so subdirectories and all the stuff you can give. For absolute, we have seen this example of BBC, right? So we can add nested list as well. So like for UL tag, within UL tag, we can give li, right? And even within li, we can again use UL tag as well. So here we are using bullets, but inside again, we are again using one bullets, right? List. HTML character entities, we can use different HTML things to represent different characters. Like if you want to show trademark, then you can only write by this way and you will get this TM symbol on the web page. So it is possible, it's a complete, you can represent your Unicodes and other characters. Block elements contain an entire large region of content. Okay, so examples could be paragraphs, lists, table, cells. The browser places a margin of white space between block elements for separation. So whenever we will be using paragraph, the browser will place a margin of white space. Okay, and inline elements affect a small amount of content. Okay, bold text, code fragments, emphasis, right, images, and obviously browser will not add margin of white space. So for this example, you can see this is inline, right, and this is block. So every block, browser is automatically adding new line, white space, right? But here, because it's inline, right, so no new line. So there are some rules and exceptions by using this block and inline. Some block elements can contain only other block elements like body and form. In body, we can add many other block elements. Paragraph tags can contain only inline elements and plain text. Okay, so we cannot add some other block elements in paragraph as a content. Some block elements can contain either div or li, right? Some elements are only allowed to contain certain other elements. Like in UL, it is only allowed to add li tag, right? And obviously in li we can add UL. We saw in the previous example. Some elements are only allowed once per document, like HTML, body, head, main. These are the tags that we can only use one time, but like paragraph or something, right? We can use anytime, any number of times. Nesting tags, uh, obviously you can see in a paragraph, we can add some inline tags only, right? So this is really awesome paragraph and here's neat list. So this is the output of this program, right? You can see here we are using ordered list. That's why we are getting 1, 2, right? and previously we were seeing UL unordered list, so that's why we were only getting bullet in previous example. But now we are using OL ordered list, that's why we are getting 1 2, and list is li because of this thing. Okay, so incorrectly nesting tags. So tags must be correctly nested. A closing tag must match the most recently opened tag. Okay, the browser may render it correctly anyway, but it is invalid HTML. Okay, so here we can see that like paragraph, in the paragraph I'm saying emphasizing one word, then strong, then starting another M inline tag, right? Then closing it, and then closing this one. Okay, lots of, and then closing this strong. So I'm using nesting tags, but they are incorrect. Okay, so what could be the better way of representing this thing would be this, like, okay, I have EM strong, right, this thing, and then I am closing EM. So this strong is closing here instead of here. Okay, so there are some more tags, and in the next lecture we will do lab of HTML, in which we will explore different tags and we will see how to write and how to use. In the next lecture we will be practicing with these tags. Thinking about accessibility as web developers, this is very important because you have to know that who uses the web, who will use your web, okay, and what are the different ways people visit and interact with websites. Why is it important to think about users when developing websites? Okay, because disabilities, everyone has different disabilities. Like in US, nearly 1 in 5 people have a disability, and this obviously there are some kinds of disabilities like visual, auditory, speech, physical, cognitive, learning, and neurological and behavioral, right? So but we have to see that, like, if uh, people are colorblind, right, then obviously we have to choose such colors in our website that are not difficult to get, right? So accessible designs that account for all abilities are called accessible designs. So your website should be accessible. Accessibility is very important nowadays. In any web app, you have to consider accessibility issues. So you can use semantic tags, right? This article, strong, and obviously don't use depreciated style tags like bold. Okay, so you can use strong. Provide metadata. You can tell that very explicitly that your website language would be in English. Provide alternatives. So alt tag is there, video captions, transcripts, right? Allow both and keyboard mouse input. Okay, so this is good. Avoid directional text. For example, the diagram on the right shows. Okay, so this sort of thing is not good. Accessible web design principles. Note these design principles help in other ways as well. Like captions allow people to watch your video without turning sound on. Transcripts help people find your page through Google. Structure and metadata help programs understand your page. So this is about accessible web design principles. So from the start of this course, you should consider accessibility issues. So this is the end of this lecture. So start writing HTML5 code. In the next lecture, we will be doing lab of HTML5, so that we would be writing very small code and getting its output, so that we have some better idea about HTML5. If you have any question or comment, you can write on comment area of this YouTube video. And please like this video, share with your friends, and keep learning. Bye bye.